Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to a chilly afternoon here at Gettysburg. It's a little bit windy, so apologies if there's any wind noise on my microphone. I have got a clip-on microphone, so hopefully that will minimize some of the wind noise. So today is Tuesday, January the 25th, 2022. My goodness, 2022 already. Out here at Gettysburg for a live stream tour today. Snow on the ground is last week's snow, hasn't melted yet. Temperature today is around about freezing, so it's not as cold as it has been on some of these tours, but still a little chilly, and we're wrapped up warm for that. So we're out here today on Oak Ridge. If I just pan across, there's the observation tower there on Doubleday Avenue, Oak Hill over there behind me. I'm looking back here now towards McPherson's Ridge, Hers Ridge, Railroad Cut, etc. So the site of fighting on the first day of battle here at Gettysburg, July the 1st, 1863. I'm in the position of where Union 2nd Division of 1st Corps would have been on that morning. So they came into position here around about between 11 and 12. Deployed along this ridge around 1 o'clock and were engaged with Confederate forces coming over the open ground behind me and down there from Oak Ridge, so coming at them from two sides. Some very sharp engagements here. The regiment I'm going to be talking about today particularly is the 11th Pennsylvania. So the 11th Pennsylvania, when it came onto the field on July the 1st, formed part of 2nd Brigade in the division and fought here on this extended line here, particularly against Iverson's brigade. The brigade fought very, very well, took about 1,000 prisoners from Iverson's brigade. That wouldn't last long, unfortunately. And there was a change during the course of the morning and the afternoon's battle. The 2nd Brigade was relieved by 1st Brigade under Poole. The commander of 11th Pennsylvania, Richard Coulter, took command of 1st Brigade. So he took his regiment with him. He transferred his regiment from 2nd Brigade to 1st Brigade. So when 2nd Brigade fell back, 1st Brigade remained here on the field. So one of the units that actually fought for most of that morning here with 1st Corps. So when 1st Corps was eventually its flank turned and overrun and forced back through into the town, 11th Pennsylvania fell back through it. So they brought about just slightly under 300 men to the field with them that day. I believe 292, maybe 296. Can't quite remember off the top of my head. So I'm going to go with 292 men they brought to the battlefield that day. Suffered during the course of the battle 13 killed, some 80 wounded, a significant number of wounded, and about 57 I think captured, taken prisoner. So quite significant casualties for a unit, not necessarily in terms of killed, only 13, but certainly the number of wounded was high and certainly the number of captured was high. So when the division pulled back, when 1st Corps pulled back, when 2nd Division pulled back, and when the brigades in that division pulled back, including the 11th Pennsylvania, they pulled back into that confusion of the town centre, through the town centre, pursued by Confederate forces, and the survivors found their way up onto Cemetery Ridge, where they remained for the remaining 2 days of the battle. So the 11th Pennsylvania, in its withdrawal, had to leave its wounded behind on the field. Those wounded were then left to the mercy of the Confederate surgeons and so forth, but they were unable to take their wounded with them. So like most of the units, they had to leave their wounded here on the field. So it's going to turn now and we can see the monument to the 11th Pennsylvania here behind me. So soldier on the top of that monument, infantry soldier, 11th Pennsylvania, granite monument, and you can see there's some brass plaques on there with the state of Pennsylvania seal and some information on the unit. So why is this particular unit interesting? We've been out here on Oak Ridge before. We've talked about the bloody 16th. We've talked about how bitter the fighting was here, and this was the point at which in theory 1st Corps and 11th Corps should have joined. If you look down on the ridge behind me to what are now the playing fields of Gettysburg College, what are known as West Fields, you can actually see that it's maybe at most a quarter mile between where the two open flanks of 11th Corps and 1st Corps could have touched, but did not, because Rhodes's division came across here on Oak Ridge, got some artillery up there, brought some infantry into play, Confederate infantry into play, and was able to prevent the juncture of 1st Corps and 11th Corps, which is why there's this gap that the Confederates are able to exploit and then turn the flanks of both 11th Corps and 1st Corps and force them to retreat. So why are we out here, and why is the 11th Pennsylvania interesting? The 11th Pennsylvania is interesting because it's one of those little quirky battlefield stories that doesn't particularly involve any kind of heroics, but it's a quirky battlefield story. And the battlefield story is not to do with these men. If we kind of come down the monument a little bit, and just here there's a little bronze figure here. We'll go and get some close-ups of that soon, but that bronze figure is of the regimental mascot, a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, a female, brindle coloured, and the name of Sally. Full name of the mascot was Sallie Ann Jarrett. Presented to the regiment as a puppy, named after a girl from home, and served as the mascot with the regiment throughout its existence. So this is a regiment that was first mustered in as a 3-month regiment in April of 1861, mustered out in August of 1861, remustered as a 3-year regiment, and then remustered as a veteran regiment at the end of the war. So served throughout the war, didn't muster out completely until, I believe, July of 1865. So this is a regiment that served the entire duration of the Civil War. So prior to Gettysburg, this regiment had fought at Cedar Mountain, Second Bull Run, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and was now here at Gettysburg with its regimental mascot. Now, regimental mascots are not unknown. If you search through photo archives, you'll often see troops on both sides, Union and Confederate troops, will often have mascots with them, particularly dogs. Dogs are a companionable animal, as you know. I have dogs. Dogs are companionable, there's no doubt about that. And there's a long tradition of regimental mascots that continues to this day. So, for example, the Marine Corps has Chesty, has its little bulldog mascot. The Irish Guards in Britain have Irish wolfhounds. So regiments continue to have mascots to this day. And it was just a measure of companionship, really, more than anything else during the Civil War. You're in camp for long periods of time. This is a war where there are battles throughout the war, but the battles are spaced out, so there's a lot of time spent on the road marching, there's a lot of time spent in camp, in tents, in camping, and you're away from home, you're lonely, you have the companionship of the men that are with you, but not much more companionship from that. So what better if you're a farm boy from western Pennsylvania who was raised on a farm that had dogs, than you had a dog with you in the regiment to keep you companionship. So those are animals that'll come and snuggle up to you next to the campfire at night. They're animals that are just always going to bring you joy, and they also have a use. I mean, if you've got a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and you're in camp and you have rats in camp that are trying to get into your commissary supplies, then a terrier is a very useful working dog. So we think of military working dogs today in terms of guard dogs and search dogs, arms and explosive search dogs, so out there sniffing for IEDs. We think of that as military working dogs, but just having a military working dog that can stop rats eating your hardtack and getting into your bacon, because terriers are a good ratting dog. They have use, and they have useful uses for themselves as a type of working dog, really, as well as companionship. So Sally was presented to the regiment as a puppy, So the story goes in a wicker basket, given to them by a farmer in a wicker basket, and then raised as a puppy and raised to adulthood, and served with the regiment throughout the war, as I say, named Sallie Ann Jarrett. So that's a dog with a full name, named after a girl from home. I don't know who Sallie Ann Jarrett was. We assume that she was a very popular lady because the regiment wanted to name their mascot after her. So Sallie was here with the regiment on July the 1st, 1863. Sallie normally marched with the colour guard, so if they were on a route march, she'd be at the head of the regiment with the colour guard, and so she was with the colour guard here during the fighting on the afternoon of July the 1st, 1863. When the regiment fell back, Sallie did not fall back with them. There was confusion, chaos. This is a battlefield in which musketry was coming in, artillery was coming in from all flanks, men were dropping around, screaming, absolute chaos. They say, on 4th of July, take care of your animals when there's fireworks outside because that will spook your dogs. Well, imagine what a dog would be like on a battlefield with sustained infantry musket fire and also sustained incoming shrapnel and exploding shells. So absolute chaos on this battlefield. And when the survivors of the regiment pulled back here from Oak Ridge through into the town and up onto Cemetery Hill, when they got there they realised that they'd lost Sallie. So they continued the battle on July 2nd and July 3rd, and on July the 4th, as the Confederate Army had moved away, this was the point now at which, after 2.5 days of fighting had come to a conclusion, the men from Cemetery Ridge and the men from First Corps were able to move up onto this battlefield that they'd been on the first day of battle and search for their dead comrades and also any wounded comrades that had survived on the battlefield for 2 days. When they got up here onto Oak Ridge, they got up into this vicinity where the regiment had been, where the regiment had fought. They found their dead, they found some of their wounded, and lying amongst the wounded men was Sallie. Sallie was not wounded. Sallie had stayed with the wounded men. She'd stayed with them from companionship. She'd stayed with them. So there's this apocryphal story that if you have animals, if you're a dog owner or a cat owner, if you drop dead in your house and nobody comes to rescue you, your dog will lay down next to you and pine with you and look after you and sit with you, and your dog will die next to you. Whereas if you're a cat owner, your cat will eat you. So that's that anecdote. So in the same way, Sallie, through loyalty to these wounded men, these men that were groaning and wounded and crying for their mothers and crying for assistance from her regiment, men that she knew, she lay down with and she lay alongside them to offer them comfort. And when the troops came back up here to collect those wounded men, they found that Sallie had been up here for 2.5 days. So she hadn't eaten, she hadn't drunk, so she was dehydrated, she was hungry, but she was alive, and she'd been with the wounded men. So this story of this brave little dog that had remained with the wounded men throughout that story is just one of those little quirky stories that sticks with people, because people are always looking for stories that they can it's hard to say get some enjoyment from a battlefield, because battlefields are interesting places, but there's not a lot of joy on a battlefield. Battlefields are places of death and destruction. So when you hear a story that has some humanity to it, some comfort to it, those are the stories that we latch onto. And so Sallie's story is the regimental mascot, that she stayed up here with the wounded. Sallie's story is one of those stories that we latch onto. I believe there's even a children's storybook about Sallie. I've not seen it myself, so I can't really comment on how great that is, but I mean, if you want to check that out on Amazon, or if you're in Gettysburg, you check it out in the gift store at the Battlefield Centre, then you could do that. So I'm right up here now on the mound where the monument is for the 11th Pennsylvania, and let's see if we can get a closer view there of Sallie. So there she is. There she is. Bronze Staffordshire Bull Terrier. You can see that people have left some commemoratives here for her. There's a couple of dog cookies there, some pennies. So we've talked about pennies before. When you come out to the battlefield, if there's a part of the battlefield that you want to just leave a memento on, rather than tacking post-it notes to it and sellotaping notes to it and banging little signs into the ground next to it, one way to let people know that you visited a monument on a battlefield is to leave a penny. So bring some pennies with you when you're out here at Gettysburg and you're down there on McPherson's Ridge and you're at the point, for example, where that little monument is to General Reynolds, where General Reynolds fell. You often see pennies left on the Reynolds Monument. When you go down Confederate Avenue and you find the statue, the equestrian statue of General Longstreet, there's often pennies left on Longstreet's horse. So you'll see pennies on parts of the battlefield, on monuments that have been left there by people for which those monuments have some significance. So as you can see, there are some pennies here on the 11th Pennsylvania Monument, likely commemorating not necessarily the regiment, but commemorating the role that Sallie played as the regiment's mascot and staying here with those wounded men. And then of course, because she's a dog, people are leaving dog biscuits for her as well to commemorate her service to 11th Pennsylvania. So we go around the battlefield, we'll find other monuments as well that have got some interesting figurines on them. The only other one I can think of that has an animal, a mascot animal on it, is the Irish Brigade Monument has an Irish wolfhound on it. It's not a specific named wolfhound that was served with any of the regiments, it's just a symbol of Old Ireland. So that's, I believe, the only other monument on the battlefield at Gettysburg, and if somebody knows different, please correct me if I'm wrong, that features a dog here on the battlefield at Gettysburg. But I just think that it's a interesting story about Sallie. Certainly if you're touring the battlefield with younger children and you're trying to keep them interested, this is a good place to stop here. So you'd stop at the there's some good parking spaces further up at the observation tower there at the beginning of Doubleday Avenue. You could stop there, park there, walk down this line of monuments for 1st and 2nd Brigade of the 2nd Division 1st Corps. You come down to the 11th Pennsylvania and you'll be able to check out the little statuette of Sallie here on the 11th Pennsylvania. So it's a good little story. And then if you're looking for one of those kind of like, you know, you to gallant up your children, to kind of like say, oh, you know, here was this brave group of men that did their last stand, you can walk down to the bottom there where the marker is for the Tilden's 16th Maine, the bloody 16th, and you can talk about that last stand of the 16th. There's a lot going on here on this little section here that are good, cracking good stories that you can pass on to younger children if you're touring the battlefield with children. So it's a very cold day today out here at Gettysburg, so I don't particularly want to stay out here in the cold for very long, but I did mention the distance between the two corps, 1st Corps and 11th Corps. So I'm just going to cross over Doubleday Avenue and just do a, so we can look and see. So hardly anybody out here today. So when we look down there, we can see just beyond the obelisk there, there's the there's the observation tower. That's essentially the end of the 1st Corps line. And then we just drop down this hill behind us, and to there, that little clump of trees down there, is the end of the 11th Corps line. So very close to each other. Almost made a union there between 1st Corps and 11th Corps, but that gap could not be filled in time. And then Richard Rhodes' division from Ewell's Corps came over that hill there behind us and prevented that juncture from happening. So when we talk about the first day's battle out here, and we talk about how the Confederates rolled back 1st Corps and 11th Corps and forced them back into the town, that's because 1st Corps fought here with open flanks, 11th Corps fought there with 2 open flanks, and they were able to get Confederate troops around each flank of that and flank both sides of those corps, as well as pushing on their centre, and unsupported, and they had to withdraw. So it's just an interesting thing when you stand up here on Oak Ridge, and look back down onto West Fields down there, where 11th Corps, those Barlow's division and Schimmelfenning's division would have been Schurz, but Schurz was actually in command of 11th Corps at that point. But those two divisions down there of 11th Corps pushed out onto that open ground, but were unable to make this juncture. So that's one of those what ifs. Well, we'll never know, because what ifs are interesting points of discussion over a pint of beer down at the Gary Owen, but as far as history goes, what ifs are just that, what ifs. So it's very cold today, and speaking of the Gary Owen, I'm going to go to the Go and get myself a adult beverage this afternoon. I'm going to get myself something warm to drink, and really, thanks for joining me today. This is going to be a quick one because I am perishing cold here, and I want to get back in the car, I want to get downtown, I want to get into the Gary Owen, and I want to get a pint inside me. So thanks for joining me today for this little quick one, this little quick tour. I'm actually going to be out on the battlefield all day today, so once I've warmed myself up a little bit, I'm going around the battlefield, take some photographs, shoot some static video. So I've got some stuff to upload during the week, so we can keep some daily uploads going during the week as well. So I'm going to shoot some additional content. So this little short video will be saved and uploaded to the YouTube later on today. And any pictures that I take today and any additional video that I take today will be uploaded throughout the week, just to kind of like keep you updated on what's going on. So it is cold today, and the wind is really picking up now. So really, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please shoot me a message here on Facebook, send me an email to walkingground@gmail.com. We're over on Twitter as well at walkingground on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter. YouTube channel, Facebook page, we're all over the place at the moment, so lots of social media outlets that we're on, and trying to keep active and trying to keep posting every single day. So thanks for joining me, guys. Really do appreciate the support, really do appreciate you joining these little tours, and I'll post this video up today, and then I will post some additional video up during the week. So see you later.